Thank you very much, and it's great to be here. It's our second data conference, Ad Age Data Conference. It's always a great place to learn the data side of the business, which is critical to us. Kinetic Social is a player, a technology and data player within the social media space. We work across Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter with API partnerships. We also work across LinkedIn and with the open web and with mobile as well. And what we're going to talk about today here is the power of social. Data underlies all of it. And we're going to talk about how that's worked in particular with our agency partners on how it's worked on behalf of a client, Sunoco. Very briefly, we'll talk about social advertising itself, and I think that's been a theme that's come up a couple of times today. Social advertising is definitely coming of age, incredibly powerful medium. The Atlantic magazine wrote back in April that Facebook is eating the internet. There is some truth to that. So if you fear walled gardens, the best advice we have is it's time to make your peace with them and figure out how to interoperate. They are responsible for as much as 1/3 of, actually a little bit more than 1/3 of all mobile inventory today. They're responsible for 25% of all display ad dollars, and that's just Facebook. And of course, you have Instagram coming along very strong here in the fourth quarter. Pinterest is a very exciting story. Twitter remains an important part of the ecosystem. As you can see from the slide up there, there's no end of the next generation coming along. Of course, Facebook playing a critical role as it goes forward. The platform reach, I think most people are familiar with these numbers, but they are eye-opening to contemplate. 1.5 billion people on Facebook, 1 billion daily active users. You've got Instagram is now at 400 million, 316 million at Twitter, 100 million on Pinterest. The time spent is enormous. I think you guys have certainly read and seen news information about just how much time people spend on social overall, Facebook in particular, increasingly Instagram, and of course Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so forth. So it's this enormous, enormous piece of advertising today. If you are digital, you must be social. It was experimental 3 years ago. It became something you kind of sort of had to have 2 years ago. You must have it today. And from a data perspective, it is a walled garden. All of these are walled gardens. How you interoperate with that, just because it's a walled garden doesn't mean you can't interoperate with it. But how you operate and interoperate with the data that's available is complex and requires a great deal of specialization. This is just an example of how complex, and this only gets to about the tip of the iceberg here. So with that, let's talk about a specific brand that we have worked with recently and the various ways in which that brand has harvested and harnessed the power of social. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleagues from the agency to talk about Sunoco. I don't know, Wick, are you going to start?
Yeah, I'm going to take it.
Great.
So gasoline isn't typically considered a high engagement category. And as Sunoco's agency of record, we're often challenged with finding ways to get people to engage with their brand. And we found a tremendous amount of success through their motorsports partnerships. So Sunoco is the official fuel of NASCAR, IndyCar, and as of this year, the National Hot Rod Association, which offers us unprecedented access to millions of really passionate fans and effectively positions Sunoco as the official fuel of American racing, or as we have come to coin, the essence of racing. So how do you bring an idea like that that's a bit cerebral to an audience that is typically used to hearing really loud kind of burnouts and rock driving tracks? If you ask motorsports fans why they love racing, they'll tell you that it's visceral and that you can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it, you can taste it, and you can smell it. So what if Sunoco actually captured the essence of racing by bottling it into an exclusive his and her cologne called Burnt Robert?
Hold me in the shadows, my heart ablaze. Hold me in the starlight. Escape with me. Burnt Robert, the essence of racing.
So we launched this campaign around arguably the biggest weekend in racing, and it was cross-platform and cross-channel, but knew that social was going to be a huge component of our campaign because of the way that we could engage with fans and customers.
So, and what we're going to do here is go through some of the platforms in social that Bernd Robert achieved its success on. Facebook being, of course, a principal platform to look at here, and some of the stats that help drive Facebook. You can certainly see the daily active users. That number is, by the way, has been exceeded by 1 billion. I think you've seen that in the news, how the demographic skews. And what's interesting about Facebook from our perspective is that it's such a big piece of the available addressable ad inventory space today that you can really operate up and down the funnel within it. Kyle, you want to talk about?
Right. So for Facebook, we worked with Kinetic to really break out the campaign into several key phases, with the first one really being focused on driving interest. So we had created some different teaser videos that didn't really give away exactly what the product would be yet, but more around the essence of racing as a campaign. And through those teaser videos, we were able to really glean some insights from that and really uncover the affinities within the different motorsports segments there. From that really helped inform our content strategy for the campaign launch within the 3 segments. So.
And we'll go ahead and push on specifically. You just get a quick example here of the kind of trending topics on Facebook that are interesting.
And the feedback was phenomenal. You know, you can see here just one example. People wanted to get their hands on this. This woman really wanted her man to wear it.
Yes, the woman definitely wanted her man to wear it. Twitter was a big piece of the campaign as well.
Yep, so for Twitter, we really wanted to maximize the agility of which we could react to these fans and the influx of different reactions that we were getting. So through Twitter and Facebook combined, we really created a fluid media plan, which again helped our fans get closer to not only the brand, but the talent that we use within the spots. In this case, was their favorite drivers.
Some specific stats there. A couple of the hashtags and so forth that were working extremely well.
And some more reactions from fans as well. Twitter definitely was a lot more bite-sized, and we had a lot of fun with the dialogue.
It's interesting, one of the things it highlights is, to a great extent, social relies not just on targeting the right audience, but the creative is huge, as you would imagine, especially as you get into the video format. Instagram is another area where we are moving next with the campaign.
Yeah, so when Kinetic came with us with the opportunity to pilot on Instagram, it wasn't originally part of the mix there, but we knew we had to jump on it. So based off of the creative that was really outperforming, we knew that we could really break it and chop it up into different pieces for Instagram specifically. And what that helped us do through the targeting there as well is really extend our reach and continue the campaign narrative.
Instagram, by the way, is performing extraordinarily well. Some of you are probably aware of those stats. The conversion rates have been absolutely phenomenal so far. It's a very young market, which probably explains a lot of it. But the cost of customer acquisition and impressions and views, for example, are very competitive. Next up, I think, will be Pinterest. I think we're still at the experimental stage of that in terms of discussing it. We're
working closely with Kinetic to really figure out what the right content is and how to extend the campaign on Pinterest, because it's a unique platform, but we'll be launching on Pinterest pretty shortly.
So there you have it. We'll give a quick overview here, a sneak peek, and I think a lot of attendees of the conference here are going to get this emailed to them relatively shortly, our trends report on what is big and what's interesting and what the stats look like for social coming in out of the Q3 period. I'll say Sunoco is obviously a great example of what works. We'd certainly like to take, together with our agency partners, a lot of credit for it. Of course, Sunoco itself as a brand has given us great creative to work with. The agency has done a phenomenal job who doesn't want to, interact with very beautiful people in a race car? I mean, good stuff. Some interesting trends, which I'll just highlight in my closing seconds here. The mobile continues to be an enormous Facebook story. Mobile has surpassed desktop at this stage in performance, measured as well by eCPC, by a considerable margin at this stage. Mobile is a huge part of the Facebook story. Many of you will remember not that long ago that mobile was a question mark around Facebook. Now that seems, of course, long answered, and the answer is Facebook wins there as well. Video length, as you would guess, is correlated with performance, but what we're seeing is that's very interesting that while there's been some controversy around Facebook in its 3-second measure of videos, actually a lot of the videos that we work with are seeing completion rates at the 15 and 30-second mark. After 30 seconds, we certainly recommend to our clients time to wrap it up. And actually, that's probably a pretty good segue because I'm out of time here. So I'll wrap it up. Last thing I'll leave you with, in addition to video being a major piece of the Facebook story, and you saw an example of how it was useful here, the other category, dynamic product ads and carousel ads, we're seeing a lot of success with that, tremendous improvements in click-through rates on that front. So there you have Facebook doing a great job, kind of top of the funnel, and then driving right on down to an action on a direct response basis. I think that is it. Thank you very much.